In this session, we are going to study about phyllotaxy and modifications of leaves. So let us start with phyllotaxy. First of all, what is phyllotaxy? Phyllotaxy is the arrangement of leaves on stems or branches. So we recently studied about leaves and their types, and in phyllotaxy we will study about how these leaves are arranged on the stem or on the branches, and depending on their arrangement we can divide them into different types of phyllotaxy. So arrangement of leaves, on stem or branches. Is called a phyllotaxy. Now if we talk about types of phyllotaxy, then there are three types. First one is alternate, second one is opposite, and third one is whorled. These are the three types of phyllotaxies we will study about. So let us start with the alternate. In alternate type, the leaves will be, suppose this is the stem, and the stem has nodes from where the leaves will develop. So what happens in the alternate type, at a single leaf arises at each node in an alternate manner. So suppose this single leaf arises at this node in this way, then at the other node it will arise in an alternate manner like this, then here like this, at this node like this. So this type of arrangement is called an alternate type. Alright, examples are China rose, sunflower, and mustard. I hope the alternate type is clear. Now let us move on to the opposite type. What happens in the opposite type? This is the stem, these are the nodes. Then at each node, a pair of leaves will arise opposite to each other, like this. A pair of leaves will arise opposite to each other. I hope you understand with the help of the diagram. So these leaves, a pair of leaves arises at each node and they are opposite to each other. That's why it is called opposite type of phyllotaxy. Examples are Calotropis, guava, and ocimum, which is the basil or tulsi. So opposite is also clear, I hope. Let us see the third type, which is whorled. So what happens in whorled? If this is a if this is a stem, this is a node, then at each node more than two leaves will arise in the form of a whorl. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These leaves can be any number more than 2, and at each node more than 2 leaves will arise and they will form a whorl like this. That is why it is called whorled type. Is this clear? So, example of whorled is Alstonia. Alright, so we studied about Phyllotaxy and its types. Phyllotaxy is the arrangement of leaves on stem or branch, and it is basically of 3 types. Alternate, in which a single leaf arises at each node in an alternate manner. Examples are China rose, sunflower and mustard. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at each node in an opposite way. Examples are Calotropis, guava and ocimum or basil. In the whorled type, 2 or more leaves arise at each node in the form of a whorl. Example is Alstonia. Alright, so I hope Phyllotaxy is clear. Now let us move on to the modifications of leaves. Modifications of leaf. So we all know that the main function of leaf is to carry out photosynthesis. Right, this is the main function. Now besides photosynthesis, some of the leaves carry out special functions for support, for protection, for storage of food, then there are some special modifications, as in the case of insectivorous plants that feed on insects. And then there are some other special modifications which we will study further. So let us start with the support. So as we have studied in the case of stem, like some of the stems they modify to provide protection to provide support to the plant. They modify into a tendril. That was a stem tendril, but here the tendril will be a leaf tendril. The leaf will modify into a tendril to provide support to the plant in order for the plant to climb. So example in which the leaf is modified into a tendril is pea. So if you look at the pea plant, then it has leaf, and then the leaf is modified further into a tendril, which helps the plant to climb and sort of get an attachment or support for its climbing or standing upright. Alright, so this is a leaf tendril. Now let us see the modification for protection. This is also quite similar to that we studied for the stem. In protection, what happens is these leaves, they modify into a spine or a thorn, as in the example of opuntia, which we also studied in the modification of stem, or a cacti. We studied that the stem of the cactus, it flattens and forms structure like this, and then over this flattened stem, the leaves, they modify into spines like this, thorns. You must have seen a cactus, right? It has thorns all over its body. So those thorns are nothing but modified leaves. So these are actually the adaptations for the dry climate or the arid region where the temperature is very high. So in order to conserve water, these leaves, they modify themselves into spines so that the water loss is minimum. This we also studied in the modification of stem. If you remember, we studied about opuntia and euphorbia, right? So this is the modification for protection. Then the next modification is food storage. Which is found in onion and garlic. This we also learned about in the modification of stem when we studied about food storage, and the modification of stem which is called a bulb. There we studied about onion and garlic, which has a structure like this, and at the base there's a flattened stem which is called a bulb. So at the top of this bulb, this fleshy structure is present in onion and garlic, which we all eat. So what are these fleshy structures? They are leaves. They are fleshy leaves. They have food stored in them. That's why we eat them. So these fleshy leaves are the examples of a modified leaf for food storage. All right. Then let us move on to the next modification, which is insectivorous plants. So insectivorous plants are those plants which feed on insects. And why do they feed on insect? Because they lack nitrogen. They grow in a place where the soil does not have nitrogen. So in order to overcome this nitrogen deficiency, they feed on insects. And how do they do that? Their leaves, they modified into special structures that trap insects. So you must have heard about the pitcher plant. You must have also seen photos and videos of pitcher plant, which is also called Nepenthes. So in pitcher plant, the leaves are modified and form a pitcher, a structure somewhat like this. There will be a lid, right? And so this structure is called a pitcher, and it is formed by the modification of the leaf. So whenever an insect comes and enters this pitcher, then this lid closes. This lid closes and the insect gets trapped, and then digestive juices are secreted inside the pitcher, and that insect will be digested. In that way, the plant overcomes its nitrogen deficiency. So pitcher plant is one of the example. The other examples are Venus flytrap, Dionia, the leaves of the Dionia look somewhat like this. these leaves, they trap insects. Whenever an insect crawls and touches these leaves, which have these special sensory hairs or structures, then this leaves closes and traps the insects and feed on them. So this is a Venus flytrap. Another example is this one more example of insectivorous plant, sundew, and bladderwort, utricularia. All these examples are really important, so you all must learn them by heart. Alright, so this was a modification for feeding on insect. And then there's some other modifications, special modifications, as in the case of Australian acacia. In Australian acacia, what happens? The leaves are small and short-lived. Small and short-lived. The leaves, they die after a very short time. So what happens? The petiole, it expands in size. The petiole, which is a part of leaf, expands its size, becomes green in color, and then it performs photosynthesis. So this is a special type of modification of leaf in which the leaves actually fall off after some time, and a part of leaf, which is the petiole, it expands in size, becomes green in color, and then performs photosynthesis. So this completes the modification of leaf. I hope all the modifications along with the examples are clear to you all. So that completes our session for this topic. Thank you so much.